Yo, welcome to the Pro Podcast Show. This is the place to be if you're looking to level up your coaching business and go from no pod to pro pod in 90 days.
There it is.
I'm your host, Mike Schwartz, and I help coaches just like you reach their ideal clients through podcasting. Now, we're going to speak with the gangsters of the health and wellness space to see what pro tips they have to help you become the trusted authority of yours. It's audio production meets storytelling. We're creating magic, folks. Buckle up. This is the Pro Podcast Show.
There it is.
Helping others heal through music and inspiration. That, my friends, is what our guest Ian Morris embodies fully. Having faced major setbacks in his personal life, from having to walk away from a budding athletic career due to heart complications, learning challenges associated with overcoming dyslexia, to hearing he had been diagnosed with both cancer and multiple sclerosis. As one can imagine, this led him down an inevitable spiral into the dark depths of depression. Yet, here we are. You'd never guess it from this dude's personality. Full of life, full of energy, full of health. And it all comes back to music. Ian is the founder of Listening to Smile. He is a personal hero of mine in the world of music production. Ladies and gentlemen, the trusted authority of sonic alchemy, Mr. Ian Morris. My man. Check it out. Hey, I even prepared a crowd for you. Here, check it out. Woo! There we go. Coming in hot. Coming in hot. My dude.
That's awesome.
Thank you, dude. Well, thank you so much for joining me, man. I want to start things off with, we're just over halfway through the full year here. I know you've been up to some craziness and awesomeness, and it's just been a wild ride. I'd love to know, dig right in, what's been the highlight of 2022 so far?
We're gearing up to go back on Paul Chek's podcast, so I'm super excited about that. So they have me booked for October 3rd, and we have some plans working with the Chek Institute on some things this year and next year. And yeah, so that's really exciting because I just think Paul is a great friend and just a huge mentor. And he's, that way to everybody that pretty much he meets. So that's huge. We started working with Cliff Bar, the company, with a mindfulness program with their employees. And that's been really rewarding and educational and just, hugely expansive in our field for what we're doing. And it's opened up some doors into some other companies as well. So it's really nice to take this work and put it into that kind of mainstream application and to see it benefiting people in that way. So that's really exciting. And we have ventured into some other companies in collaboration, working with meditation sprays and fusing frequency into the actual spray so that it can change that. Like someone comes in their house and it's like, man, it's got a weird vibe in here. And you just spray the spray and it just kind of changes the whole vibe. And, it's something that can be paired with the music, and it just really is tools for uplifting people and spaces. And then we also have a meditation box that we're working on that'll be kind of like a beginner's guide to like getting started with all this: teas, crystals, music, artwork, something that someone can order and it just drop ships to their house. And it's something that's just like a starter kit, like for, tangible products that can get you started and give you a focus to get into this kind of, self-care. So I feel like we've upgraded some equipment in the studio. The music's getting better. So it's been a really busy year, but it's been really rewarding, and there's a lot of growth. And we had a rebranding with our website and a lot of growth on our website. So yeah, there's just a lot of things happening. It's really nice.
Man, oh man. Yeah. And it's really, isn't it, being on the outside looking in, man, it's really inspiring to watch. Walk me through the journey, man. It sounds like you've experienced a whole heck of a lot, especially in the recent year here. And now regarding Listening to Smile, for those listeners who are unfamiliar with what the whole premise is, walk me through. It sounds like you've taken your experiences and now you help others through whatever they're experiencing. And that's through the beautiful power of music.
Yeah. I saw a quote yesterday that Willie Nelson said that he felt that music was the highest form of spirituality. And I thought that was such a great quote because I believe that to be true. I'm in agreement. I concur, Willie. So it's
in case you're listening.
yeah. And so it's I just think that for me, if it wasn't for music, I don't know that I would be here. When I hit my kind of dark night of the soul, I really wanted to give up. It was very hopeless feeling. And so slowly I was introduced through my network of people, family and friends, some books that really changed my life. You know, two of those books that really stand out to me are Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And then Dr. Mitchell Gaynor wrote The Healing Power of Sound. And so those two books I was reading pretty much in, simultaneously. And it just had such a big, profound effect right then in that moment. It was just sometimes, the perfect timing, the perfect placement. And so, yeah, I just went down that rabbit hole. And within a year, I was severely overweight. I was about 315, 320 in weight. I'm 6'2". I'm a big guy, but that was a lot of weight to be carrying. I was depressed. I had, lost something I thought was so going to be a part of my life in the long term, which was baseball. It was something I loved from T-ball all the way through high school. And, I had scouts looking at me in, 10th and 11th grade. And it was just something that I really thought was going to be my reality. And when that was taken away, there was this huge depression. And it was years and years of just drinking and self-medicating, smoking lots of weed, and just kind of checking out of life. And that resulted in poor choices in food, and pretty much non-existent self-care at that point. And so that's where the weight came from, the depression. There was anxiety, whole plethora of health concerns. And so when I read those books, it really gave me a different perspective. And I started really getting into breath work and meditation and sound healing. And it made me look at music in a different way. I was already a musician and I played a lot of instruments. My father was a musician that really kind of passed that talent and that love of music down to me. But these books made me look at life in a different way, a different perspective. And I think that that's what's so amazing about art, is that it has that power at any point in time that you open your heart and mind to an artist's expression, whether that's visual art, poetry, music, dance. I believe that it has the capability of shifting perspective and challenging your limitations on what you've placed on your life, because there really is no limit except what we ourselves place on that. And so, so that was huge for me, and then like moving forward, I lost weight. I started feeling differently. The music allowed me to settle in. I was not a person that could really sit still. The music allowed me to have that still time and quiet space with the music. And then I learned to incorporate other things like intention setting, breath work, manifesting, and just really getting into meditation in a way that I never had. And within a year and a half's time, I had lost over 100 pounds. So people started seeing the changes in my attitude and my vocabulary, the words I was choosing to speak. And hey man, what you been up to? You look good, you look nice. What have you been doing? And then you start sharing that with people. And sometimes there are plans laid out for us, a fate, if you will. And I just had a conversation about this with a good friend this last 2 or 3 days, and he said, everyone's running from their fate. And he said, we chose our fate. Like, he's like, everything that's happening to us right now, we knew ahead of time. We chose this for our lessons. And he said, the free will is not that we're changing the fate. The free will is how we're choosing to deal with the fate that we already picked before we came here. And I thought that was such a profound statement, and it's like, yeah. So if you settle into that and it's something that resonates with you, it's really interesting. It really shifts your perspective in a different way. And so, long story short, basically losing that weight and being able to share that story with people grew into being able to start hosting events and ultimately starting my company, Listening to Smile. And what we're doing with that company is basically, I call it a unique sound healing company that specializes in music licensing, because that's pretty much what we're doing. And my passion is to get this music in front of as many people as I can and give them the invitation to step into breathwork, meditation, manifestation through this connection with music. And as Willie said, it's, the highest form of spirituality. So I feel like if people engage this music with an open mind and an open heart, there really is no limit to the amount that those, the person as an individual and the music can exchange back and forth between them. And I believe that what we're doing is creating frequency minded music, which is a very sacred approach. And it's a non entertainment based approach. It's more of a scientific and like a self-care approach, in the form that all of the music we're making is for release and healing. The intention is that from the first part of creation to the last stages of mixing and mastering, everything is that intention of helping to release and move stagnant energy in the body.
Wow, man. And this is why I say you are the sonic alchemist of all, because it's noted, music is art. Music is, and many people that are listening to top 40 stuff, they're missing out on where it can really go, where we're really stuck. And you and I, we talked about this, when we first met, like we both share that, okay, we'd been through the rock star lifestyle. We'd seen it all. We'd done those tours and those stunts, and that wears on you as a musician.
Yeah.
You can only have so many shows of hearing "Free Bird," back,
Yeah.
before it grows old. And what's super fascinating, to turn it in a different direction here, is what captivates me, and I'm so wildly impressed, is being a producer myself and a musician. I know that there's like an ebb and flow. Do you find an ebb and flow in your creative process? Like you go and you can go for 2 or 3 days straight, like studio, and then you take a break. Walk me through the, because there's a follow-up question here. Walk me through the creative process for yourself, because again, the listeners here, oftentimes that is a big thing that stops people. Oh, it's too much work. What's your creative flow like?
Well, I know a lot of like journaling and writing workshops will focus on like lyricists and poets writing something in their notebook every single day. And you're not going to use everything that you write, but it's teaching you to be creative on command, is what that exercise is for. And I think as a visual artist or a musician or even a dance, choreographer, I think doing something every day, even if it's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I think is highly beneficial. And the reason is most, I'm not going to say 100%, but I would say 90% of the time, if someone's like, let's create a beat, or let's create a song, or let's do this, I'm able to just fire it out. I mean, this is 7 years that I've been creating pretty much on a daily basis. I've always been a highly creative person with a lot of output. I remember in 2005, I think I recorded like 15 albums in that year. So that was back then. And, so I love so many different styles of music. And I think being diverse in my appreciation and gratitude for music helps definitely to be able to create, because I'm not stuck inside of a tunnel, like locked into one style. So that opens it up even more. But so for me, there are ebb and flows. There's some days where you'll stay in the studio 14, 16, 20 hours. And you're like, oh man, I haven't ate food. And you're kind of locked in the zone. And that happens, And so I think that I've learned to be kind when the flow is going. And there's also times when it's still going and I have to say, it's really going well, but I've got to take a break for just me to have self-care. And I remember there was a poem that I laughed at the first time I saw it. There's a Sufi poet called Hafez. And he's basically talking about poetry calling to him through the day and how he writes everything that, channels everything that comes through. And he's like, sometimes I have to say to a poem, not now, I'm in the bath, like basically saying, I've got to do things for me too. And like, I hear you calling, trying to come in, but not now, and like, he was basically saying that he was in fear of losing, if he said no, losing that connection. And then he just basically was saying, in his experience, he's seeing the well-roundedness of him having sleep, him having the self-care, and that everything that comes in is divinely appointed and it'll come in. You're not going to lose it. If it was divinely appointed, it tried to come in at noon and you weren't ready, it's going to come in at 3 a.m. It's going to come in at 8 a.m. It's still going to be there. So if it was meant to be, it was meant to be. And I think that was a very awakening poem for me in my creative process of like learning that it is okay sometimes to say no to jobs that might be more than what you wanted, or even if the money was there, is the money worth more than your peace of mind and sense of peace and stability in your life? And so I think you learn to have these boundaries or limits within knowing what makes you tick and function in a way that is healthy for you. And so I think like in my ebb and flows, there's times where I do let myself go wild because it's just I mean, for people who are not musicians or creative people like an artist, poet, or musician, and those relative terms, I mean, because we're all creators, but in those specific realms, I think it's really hard to convey to someone how powerful of a drug that creative energy is. Like when you tap into it and you're in that flow state and you finish it and you step back and look at that creation and you're like, because it is a co-creation of spirit. You're not doing it all. It's coming through you. Some of it, you're steering the rudder and you're creating things, but there is this process that is very powerful. And when you stand back and look at that, it is such a high to be a part of that process and to be a part of something that is just such a multifaceted process that could be changed with every little tweak, every little effect, every little mixing, panning. And it's like creates this perfect creation that almost feels like a child, like you gave birth to a creation. And it's very, very hard to explain that to someone who's never done that. But I highly suggest everyone get involved in being a creative person. And like I said, we're all creative, like a mom that's a single mom that has a shoestring budget that's trying to feed a household and figure out how to make it. That is a creative person. It's someone who's using that creative thinking skills to make their life a better space for them and their children. So it's like all across the board, we're creators, but this specific, the creative outputs of poetry, dance, music, art, visual art, are so healing. They're therapeutic. And I feel like everyone can do it. It's just getting started and trying to keep being consistent with it.
There it is. Dude, yeah. And I mean, you said something early in that too, where, what was it, 15 albums in 2005?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where I go. Okay, so for the people that are like, oh, I'm not creative. Okay, cool. Well, we dismiss that. We squash that. Yeah, you are. Mm-hmm. You got to look at it in a different lens. What about the people that say, oh, that maybe their dream, they're killing their own dreams before they even start because they think the time isn't there. Dude just told us, ladies and gentlemen, 15 albums. Tool took 15 years to put one album out. Christ. Like, you know what I mean? Like the creativity is there. The magic is there. Are there tangible organization strategies that you've implemented to help you be able to put that creativity in flow?
Yeah, I think so. You hear it a lot. Like people say, quality over quantity, right? And so I think when you're getting started as an artist, what's really interesting is like most of the people that are in the mainstream, they don't just magically put out an album and it's like this most amazing revered album of all time. It's a big process leading up to this, or they have a lot of writers and producers who have experience and time that contribute to these albums that help them to be there. But as an artist, like I look back before, in the golden age of music, like when you had like James Taylor and all these different singer-songwriters like writing their own songs. And like, it wasn't about getting a producer to tell you how to make $1 million. It was literally like, does this song have feeling? Is it going to connect with people? Let's see what happens. And letting the market dictate instead of trying to dictate to the market what is good. And I think what you see right now is the market has been dictating, the industry has been dictating to the market what is good. And you see just cookie cutter after cookie cutter after cookie cutter. And we have lost the soul of music. Not saying that there's not good music out there. There is. But as far as creativity and uniqueness and originality, there is such a lack in the music industry right now. And you see just time after time, someone has a hit and then 15, 20 artists copy the same style, work with the same producer, and try to create the same effect. And I think that when I look back at the golden age of music, you look at people really writing from the heart, writing music and just putting it out and saying, let's see what happens. And I think that music for me is to be, as putting out the amount of content that I am with my music is, am I happy with every single song that I put out? No. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing that's funny is I'll put out albums and I'll say my favorite song is this, and not a single person will say anything about that song. The songs that I feel like are lacking, people will say this is the best song in the whole world. And sometimes it's vice versa. It changes, but it's like, it just lets you know, like, you are not your audience. You're putting out music and you're putting out expressions and thoughts and perspectives to share and interact with people. And it's great to get feedback. Even if people say something sucks or it's not their favorite, it's a learning point of like understanding why they feel that way. Well, maybe there's too much bass for them. Maybe they don't like bass. Maybe they don't like singing. Maybe they want instrumental. There's all these different facets that go into people's pleasures of music. And so I think it's always a learning opportunity to hear why they love something or they hate something. And, maybe hate's too hard of a word, dislike something. But my point is just, one of my friends who's a producer came by and actually watched me create. And he's like, dude, you're just flying through sounds. And I said, yeah. And I said, I know what I'm looking for. And so I find it. And then even if it's not exactly what I'm looking for, I stick with it. I get my melody and my layout, start sketching the template of what I'm laying out, what I feel like I'm called to channel for this month. We're making these every month, right? So he says, well, what do you do? And I say, once I have the sketch, I go back and I start fine tuning. But see, you're getting stuck on the fine tuning in the beginning, and you're losing your inspiration, and you're losing your the drive and fire behind this creation. So I said, get the fire out, get the inspiration out, get it close as you can, and then start fine tuning it. Even if you come back 2 days or 3 days later, you've got this amazing sketch. You've got it pretty much 70% mapped out. And now you can fine tune and tweak. And I found that for me was the best process to not stall or stagnate those creative outputs. And I think that it's one of the most, I would say it is the foremost reason that I create so much content. We're putting out 5 to 7 tracks each month, and I probably am creating 7 to 12 tracks every month, and some of them aren't making the cut onto the albums. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot. And we're also working with custom projects with some of our affiliates, and we're working with some companies on custom projects too. So I would say in a given month, I'm creating somewhere between like 12 and 20 tracks every month. And that's like writing, recording, mixing, and mastering. So people say, well, how long are you in the studio? And I would say every day, pretty much. I mean, there's some exceptions here and there, but every day I'm putting in at least an hour, sometimes 6 to 8 hours in the studio working on that. So the reason I'm saying that is that for me, I've seen just in the last 7 years, this astronomical, like if you go back and look at my first album to the latest albums, the production quality is much, much better. And I've learned so much along the way, but it also gives me more control and ability to make the music what I hear in my head, knowing how to mix and master, knowing the process from writing and recording to mixing and mastering. And like you can see the process, and the studio is an instrument. You look at the Beatles with like George Martin. I mean, the Beatles would absolutely have none of the draw. I'm not saying that they weren't great as a 4-piece band, but when they started adding in the string sections like Eleanor Rigby and like Penny Lane and all of these magical creations in the studio, I mean, really, when you think back about the Beatles, that's really what you think of is Sgt. Pepper's and, Revolver and all these studio albums that were just masterpieces, like Tomorrow Never Knows. What a song, right? Like all of the production that George Martin put in that. I was watching a documentary where they said they had Paul laughing, like he was just like smoking and high in the studio. And there's like this part that sounds like seagulls. on Tomorrow Never Knows, and that's like his laugh reversed or played backwards or something. And you think about the technology that was available to them and how they were bouncing tracks, and a lot of people that don't understand music will not comprehend how masterful that piece of art stands to this time period as a great creation. What is it, 50 years later? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that is truly amazing, So I think like, yeah, I hope that's not too far out there, but yeah, I just, music is truly an amazing tool, and creativity is such a therapeutic healing process.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you've really found the value in how to draft, and that's the number one thing. It's about reps, right? That's what I've taken away. You got to put the reps in. You compared those 15 albums from 2005 to today's. I mean, dude, you were likely a ninja back then too, and now just with that many more hours, right? Like if you're putting every single day an hour in, you do the math, people. Like you want to get good at what you're doing. And on the flip side, you want to get good at what you don't want to be doing, put in reps, and it goes both ways. And so it sounds like for you to alleviate that, that stagnation, where people, they don't pull the trigger because it's got to be perfect. Well, yeah. And I mean, it was Rick Rubin. Mm-hmm. They'll never go anywhere, right? He's quoted as saying, the minute you put something out there, you're deemed successful. Yeah. Right? So as soon as and it sounds like once you put it down onto the proverbial canvas, that's when the magic can really happen, because you can see it from a bigger lens. Yeah. Right? You get that draft, and then you can fine tune, and that's when it really does come to life. And man, if you listen to your production, you can feel that for sure. There's so much love, there's so much passion in that. And I think it's really valuable for listeners to understand, put it out there, whatever that is. If you're a coach and you think you get this, put it out there, pilot it. That's a favorite word, pilot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Just pilot. Because that gives you the permission to like pull back on, I've done that.
Well, I think what's really interesting is I do not by any means think I'm the greatest mixing and mastering person, or that my production is the highest quality. I do have gratitude for what I've learned, and I also have gratitude for what I'm able to do with what I have. And so a lot of people, like, this is a pretty much portable setup here. You're talking about probably 45 grand of equipment that is being utilized and put out there, and people are being engaged. And so I think, like, if I got caught up in, this person has $100,000 studio or $1 million studio, and their production is of this quality. And I think, like, I hear it a lot in the yoga community. They say, keep your head down on your mat. Like, look at what you're doing, look at your process. Don't compare yourself to the person next to you or the person in front of you. Like, they're so much better. You don't know how much longer they've been doing it. You don't know the process of, what got them to there. And I think that the important thing is that this is therapy for me. Every month I put out something new. This is therapy, and I'm sharing it with other people, and I'm saying, hey, this is some things that has helped me. Maybe it'll help you. And I think that there's emails we get from all over the world, different countries, people saying, this helped me with my cancer. This helped me with my anxiety. This helped me with, and so you start seeing like the interaction with people. They're not sitting around judging your music, saying it doesn't sound like the production value of the Beatles or Justin Bieber or, Taylor Swift. They're saying, this music is affecting me, and I'm enjoying connecting with you in this music. And I think we have to, as artists, lose sight of comparing ourselves to other things. This is just a snapshot. It's a time capsule of where you are right now with your production, with your equipment, and with your ability. And I think what you do is you challenge yourself to be better than you were last month, last year, and you just keep challenging yourself. And I think that's how you're going to get better and put out better content and quality. And also, don't gauge your success on what everyone else is doing, because if you really want to be a trendsetter, do something unique and something that is you, of your voice, you can't look at what other people are doing. I remember an interview with David Bowie where he said he quit listening to music, period, of anyone else. And he just started creating his own music because he didn't want melodies from other people's music getting stuck or getting copied in his music. And I was like, man, I can't imagine not listening to music. Like, that's crazy, right? But it's like he put out some really unique, entertaining albums that were just so different, and so it's really interesting. Everyone's process will be different.
I absolutely love that, and so much of that comes down in, especially into the coaching industry. If you got, like you said, the yoga mentality, keep your eyes on the prize right here, and your lane is your lane. Some people wear a lot of different hats and they think they can't pick a lane, and that's just a wider lane, man. You got a jumbo jet instead of just the standard Ferrari. You know what I mean? So it's like that's so valuable coming from a creative aspect too, because if you're gonna, it's that hesitation that you're gonna feel the resistance because you're not up to snuff based off of what, right? Like, it sounds like you've come to like really find a hole in, and even you said it as a creative too, where you'd put out a song and you think, this is a banger. I've done this 100 times. Like, this is the jam on that album. And people are like, yeah, cool. Oh, I love this for whatever reason. And it's one of these like lo-fi, it basically sounds like a demo tape, and you put it out there because it was like, and I've done that, and people come back, man, there was so much, like I went through so much. It sounds like you found a really good way to touch people in a very unique way through your own creative process, just by getting out of your own way.
Yeah, definitely.
Dude, good job.
Yeah,
man.
Man.
That's fantastic. I mean, I want to touch back in because it also sounds like you found a hole in the industry. You mentioned earlier with the music industry of being, okay, cool. It sounds like the industry is dictating. Okay, what is good? Coming back to that, what's the hole in the system, and what have you done to alleviate that or fill that hole? What is the play right now with listening to Smile?
Yeah, so the old paradigm of getting signed to a record label and them somewhat taking care of you is dead. It's gone. And so the tech industry is really manipulating what's happening, and that's. And this is a really important lesson for all of us. Like, the record industry should have had the foresight to see what was coming, and they didn't. So the tech industry stole the market. And what's really interesting to me that I do not understand is, if I was a record label right now making all the contracts with the artists, I would say, hey, Columbia Records is starting our own streaming service. And if you sign with us, we're going to do this, this, and this for you, but you're only going to be available on our platform, not iTunes, not on Spotify. And so these pipe dreams are sold to these artists that they're going to somehow get discovered. And again, we're in another phase of the internet where viral is pretty much dead too. It's all, the organic growth is dead. I mean, there's a stranglehold that they have, and unless you're paying money to them, they really dictate who sees your content. So with that being said, I just deem the whole system to be unfair to artists. And I find it really interesting that artists build the entire platforms. Without artists, there is no Spotify. Without artists, there is no iTunes, so it's like they hinge on these people being a part of it. And the even bigger thing is, I don't know if you saw yesterday or the day before, that an AI rapper got signed to Columbia Records. I believe it was Columbia Records, major label. And you're talking about a person that's created a software algorithm to rap lyrics on songs that is getting signed and making money. And it's like, what is the next step in that? The evolution is to cut out the artist completely so that there is no royalties having to be paid out. And the interesting part of this is that a lot of artists don't see it coming. Like, if you go to your friends right now and say, what are you listening to on Spotify? I will guarantee you that most of those people are listening to playlists that someone else has created, and they have no real knowledge of the artists that are on those playlists. They just know the playlist name. And so people think, well, that's not a big deal. Well, the big deal is that this is the first step in the evolution of separating you from the artist. Okay, so as they do that, they make it less and less connected. And so as they cut the artists out, it's not a big deal to you anymore. And so as they start signing these AI artists and cutting the musicians out completely, you see the the totalitarian tiptoe is coming in slowly, and it's like people won't realize it until it's too late. So I try to educate musicians as much as I can that there is a little more work involved to basically excuse me, to basically take your career into your hands. But the ultimate goal, I remember the first year I did this, I made around $55,000. And it's like most artists as musicians starting out are not making that kind of money. Each year we have, increased our money, and it's something that has been really helpful, but it's having complete control of the music. No one's dictating or putting your music in places that you don't want. You learn a little bit about, privatizing your catalog and then being able to license that privately to companies and to opportunities, that you're wanting the music to be a part of, and you're actually making an income and supporting yourself, and you're giving other people the ability to have that integrity and to have that good feeling of like, hey, I'm supporting this artist directly. It's not going to the record label. It's not getting taken in these other hidden fees. It's going directly to the artist, and it's having an outcome on them creating this content that I've connected with and that is inspiring me, and I'm giving them the ability to then create more. And so like all of our affiliates, I'm just in such high gratitude. Like I still personally call my affiliates and I reach out, and talk and have friendships with these affiliates because they are family. They are helping to distribute, they're spreading the awareness of the work that we are doing, and they have supported us in a financial way, and they've also supported us in an emotional way and in a professional way, putting this music out and giving feedback on the clients they're working with and how it's having effect. So there's a value in that is built that is far, far greater than what a record label or distribution or publisher could do for you as an artist. You're creating real-time relationships in the real world. And I think that it's been monumentally powerful for me and my music. It's been monumentally powerful. I mean, we're in 9 different countries now, all over the world, that I've never stepped foot in any of these countries by word of mouth. And the word of mouth is because we've invested so much in these relationships with the affiliates. And, as you get bigger, it gets harder to maintain that exactly the same, but we're doing our best. And, there's growing pains, there's ups and downs. And as a business owner, you start learning and growing with these experiences. And so, I think that it's just really, really powerful. The artist taking back their power, realizing that the powers that be, and this, at a risk of sounding like a conspiracy theorist, the powers that be are manipulating creatives. They're using artists and graphic artists and coders and visual artists and musicians, and they're using this to shape and mold the masses. And like if people realize like artists are really meant to feel guilty for not giving away their content for free. They're really made to feel insignificant, like that they should just be lucky to have an appearance to play for free for the simple exposure. And, we know that these free performances and giving away our content that we work so hard, and people have no clue how much money it costs to put together albums. I had a friend that spent $30,000 putting an album together. And then people are like, oh, $10, I have to pay $10 for this album. And they have no idea the time of the skill build, that it took to put this out and to get the equipment and to go pay for studio time. And so my point is just basically that it's time for the artists, the poets, the musicians, the dance choreographers, the performers to realize we are magicians. We have magic. We're spreading perspective, and we're spreading joy and inspiration to the world. And there is a value in that. And there is a value in how much the masses can be shaped. Just like Willie said, music is the highest form of spirituality. So you're shaping consciousness on the planet. What kind of value are you putting on that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it's like, it's time to wake up for all of us, myself included, every day, to take our power back and to start realizing the value that we have in this content creation.
Yeah. Let's cue the Rage Against the Machine taking power back.
Yeah.
I'm just like, as soon as I hear it, I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, and that raises a really, really cool point too, because how important is it? Because we see this all the time. I'm the gap between music and wellness, and we see this all the time. People are like, "What do you mean I can't use this Spotify playlist in my yoga class? What do you mean?" Like everything that you're just speaking to. Could you for those that are unaware of the licensing that comes with music, could
Yeah.
you explain to me why that is absolutely offside?
Yeah. So we really saw the downfall of the industry when Napster came into play. And then you had LimeWire and all these other transfer programs that came out around that same time. And it decimated the industry. They lost hold on being able to sell music because it was so readily available and free. And in the beginning, I mean, I was right there with everyone. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm getting bootlegs and things that you can't even get. And so it's a real lesson. It's a lesson in how free is very detrimental as a person giving away content, and even as a person receiving. I can't tell you how many hard drives people filled up, myself included, of music that you never really even listened to. You know what I'm saying? Like you never even got to the amount of things that you downloaded. And I think that there's a real value exchange in me giving my money to an artist and me valuing the content that I'm getting by investing in that. Not only am I supporting that artist to keep putting out the music, but I'm also investing in, I spent money on this. I'm going to spend time actually listening and having this be a part of my life because I invested the money in it. And I take it a little more seriously in that approach. And I think that the more money we spend on things, the more time and attention we give those things, because we're putting a value exchange of I worked X amount of hours to pay for this piece of product that is meant to make my life better. So there's an engagement there that I think is really important. Secondly, as people lost appreciation for music and the artists in that time period, there's a lot of people growing up in this time period that have never known what purchasing music is. You know what I mean? Like it's just streaming, and I think that what's really fair to put out there is, I know Spotify's lost some trials here, and we'll see how it pans out in the future. But up until this point, you would have to have 1 million streams on Spotify to make $3,000. And like, you know, people are like, oh, wow. And I'm like, well, imagine most of the artists will never reach 1 million streams. There's not enough PR and marketing to put them out there. And not to mention that Spotify is putting out, I think, 40,000 songs a day. Mm-hmm. New songs that are coming out there. So there's a platform that has so much content that it's overwhelming to people, and there's so many people lost in the shuffle. So I think like there's two things going on. There's a lot of technology, and it's much easier to create albums today, but there's a lot more to sift through, and most people are not into music the way they were in the 80s and 90s, where they'll dig through dumpsters and bins and find these amazing gems of music. And so it's very different. Everything's kind of handed to people, and it's a very here's what's good, listen to this, man. And it's not like Friends, and it's not like magazines, and it's not this larger spectrum of distribution or awareness. So it's a very like tunnel vision view of the market. And so that's, I think, bad for the creative portion of this industry. The third part is that it's absolutely unfair to the artists, which is why so many artists are going to get real jobs, quitting things that, imagine if Johnny Cash, or imagine if Madonna or other people would be coming up in now, and there was no support for them. And look at all the things that we would have lost in the world of these different artists contributing, you know, this artist development. So yes, when someone takes a Spotify into a commercial setting, they're breaking copyright law. They should be paying a music licensing. And I explained this to a yoga teacher who came to me in Pittsburgh and was saying, well, you know, I pay the $10 a month. And I said, well, you have 6 studios and you have 50 teachers that are using your account. And that's why you got served by BMI. You know, I think it was $150,000 fine that they were trying to fine her. And so I was telling her, I said, you have 6 studios, so they're coming after you to make a lesson, you know, for other people. and I said, there's going to be people who don't get caught, and there's going to be people who think they won't get caught and will get caught because of everyone's moving content to online. So a lot more people are getting busted, and there's a lot more of the industry that's starting to concentrate on this now, because it's really the only way that they can make money because of how it's been decimated so much. So what we have done with Listening to Smile is tried to create a new paradigm where we engage with holistic practitioners and businesses, and we say, hey, you can support us and we can support you. We're going to give you a multi-use license where you can use our music and, like podcasts. You can use it in videos. You can use it on social media. You can use it on one-on-one sessions, and you can have online events and in-person events and use our music to generate money, ticket prices, sell the music to your clients. We're giving them multiple avenues of, income, and then saying, by you paying this yearly fee, you're supporting this creation of this music, and you're paying for the proper permissions and licenses to use this in a commercial setting. But you can also sell the program, sell the music. You can host events utilizing it in all these different ways, which we call a multi-use license. And it's a privatized license. It's directly supporting us. There's no record label or publisher that's coming in to try to take those cuts. We own the music 100%. We are licensing it in a private fashion, and it's outside of the industry. And I think this is the new paradigm for musicians. This is something that all musicians should look at. It's going to be a little work, but it is much, much more lucrative. It's much more supportive, and it's building relations with the people you're working with in a way that the record labels would absolutely not be able to give you. And so I think that this has been the biggest area of success for us, is to say, I see your path. I don't agree with it, and I believe I can create my own. So there has been a machete chopping down overgrown things and starting our new path. But it has been a humbling and joyful and tearful and pride swallowing process the whole way. It's been something that has been really beneficial to this business moving forward.
There it is, dude, and that's one of the many reasons that originally drew me into getting in touch with you, is the amount of passion that you have for it, and the amount of passion that you have for other artists that just bleeds, man. Like you're so dedicated to the craft. You're so dedicated to the other creators. And what I've now done in support of that is, because yes, you said something very, very interesting. It's like, yes, this is the way forward for musicians. This is also the way forward for healers. This is also, you said magicians, healers, quite literally, archetype magician. You're transformational. So with that, music being such a transformational vessel to help the people that you're working with through their trauma, help the people that you're working with through their pain. This is one way to bring these two industries together, because we're allies. We're absolutely allies. The healers and the magicians, or the healers are the magicians, and the musicians are also the magicians, right? So it's like musicians are just another form. Musicians can do the same thing, and we've seen that now. For anybody that hasn't listened to Ian's work, you likely have. You're in my circle. So you've been to a show, you've been to, and it's a different experience. Most people that have yet to experience the sonic frequency meditation or something, holy moly, that is a different experience for a lot of people, because it's such a nice passive way to get people into things like meditation, or into things like journaling, into things like just taking what Czech would call a peace point. Just have a moment where we sit. Instead of doing, we're being, and we can let the music take us there, right? That's why, like, as we round this thing out, talking more specifically about the licensing and the affiliate program, because I think this is incredibly valuable. We know how powerful music is. If we're building online programs, we're building group setting, everything is going viral online now too, so there's a lot more opportunity to affect more of a reach. Music can be that voice, right? What would you recommend for any coach who's looking for like a different lane? Like you said, income sources, you've got so many different things. Can we talk a little bit about the affiliation program?
Yeah, yeah. So the main people that we're working with are life coaches, counselors, talk therapists. We're working with even hypnotherapists, and so we're dealing in those realms where people are using this one-on-one, and they're wanting to kind of amplify these experiences and give the client something to work with at home that is still keeping them in connection with them as their point person. And so I think like traditionally, most hypnotherapists that use music, when you get into frequency of it, they'll understand brainwave activity and things of that nature, but not music to the point where this frequency or this binaural can create this specific outcome. And so I think by pairing these practitioners, it's like, this is my forte, this is what I've studied, this is your forte, this is what you've studied, we're putting the chocolate and peanut butter together. And so, but it's also carrying over into like massage therapy, acupuncturists, chiropractors. We're working with neuroscientists. We're even working with some people that are doing counseling in different social settings, you know. So there's people that are using our music in like coffee shops and bookstores and all kinds of things. So it's really interesting to see how that has grown. And then most of the practitioners who are signing up for our program are wanting to not only one, be protected from getting infringements of copyrights and getting fines, but also adding these streams of revenue. So for instance, if a life coach was creating a program, they could say, hey, I want to use these 10 tracks for these next 2 or 3 programs that I'm putting together. And so essentially what they're doing is they're creating a powerful soundtrack that's engaging the people, and they're setting up content that is going to be different than what other people are using. You know, these are unique created songs. They're not available on Spotify and YouTube. These are things that they would specifically be exclusively working with their clients with, which would be new and exciting. They always have a library that they can pull from. We have over 600 songs in our library now. And so there's always different styles like shamanic drumming, pop music, folk music, trip hop, hip hop, all these different, and most of it is instrumental. So it fits perfectly into a video. It fits perfectly into where they can do voiceovers and do guided meditations, life coaching. Yeah. So they're perfect like B-roll for film. They're perfect for like background tracks and like an inspirational talk. There's all kinds of things, but then they can also, as there's an upsell to the program where they can create their own content, sell their own album, sell their own coaching with the music. And so the program is very diverse. They can sell, if a yoga teacher came to one of their lectures or their talks and they're like, man, that music you were playing is awesome, I want to sign up and use that music, then the person could sign up through that coach and the coach is getting a kickback. We call them gratitude payments. So they can sell the music, they can utilize it being protected in a commercial setting, and they can also create their own content ultimately with this music. And so it's creating multiple revenue streams, and it's creating the bubble of protection saying, I have permission to use this in this way. And so I think that for me has been one of the largest rewarding things in doing this, is that people are supporting me in a real way, and I'm supporting them in a real way and helping them to grow. And that's just such a good feeling for both parties, you know?
Yeah, dude, I absolutely love it. And guys, if you are a coach, if you are a healer, if you are a yoga practitioner, and you're looking at ways, because we think like that, how can we support? It comes back to, you know, support thyself, support the land, support your community. With these two industries growing up right now in the day of tech, this is like a neo-renaissance. And being able to come together where we see so many people looking at self-development from both of those lenses, this is a perfect pairing. Like this is the thing that I'm super passionate about. I'm so happy that we were able to connect. And man, I'm really excited to see where it grows.
Me too.
My question to you, just to take this way out into quite literally left field, you mentioned something earlier. Baseball. And yes. I don't know if you know, but this is a Jays cap.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me make sure. All right. We're gonna have a little fun. I'd love for you. Let's build a dream team. Okay, who's on first? Who's on first? All time. All time. Okay, let's go. We've been talking about music all day. People are like, "What is this guy?" Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Hit me some ball. Who's your first baseman?
Let's start with the pitcher first.
Okay, cool. We'll go pitcher.
Yeah, let's do the pitcher.
First, where did you play? What was your
I was a pitcher.
Okay, that's why. Okay, yeah. All right. I was the first baseman. Did you see that?
Okay.
Boom.
Yeah. So the two greatest pitchers of all time. I mean, as far as the time period that I came up in, you're talking Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens. These are.
Oh man.
These are.
Not Randy.
Yeah, Randy Johnson
I was
yeah.
Say like that's tough.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, but
we got three of them.
Yeah, definitely Nolan first. I mean, they just came out with a new documentary about Nolan Ryan. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks really good. But it's just Nolan Ryan and Roger Clemens, I would say. And I could see Randy Johnson being in there third. Yeah, that time period, all those guys just dominated.
Randy destroying that bird. That's how I found out who Randy Johnson was. I was like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Killed a seagull?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that new documentary with Nolan Ryan, I think they said that his fastest fastball clocked was 108. And yeah. And, and so he had the most strikeouts of all time. I mean, he was just, you look at some of his integrity and just manliness, man. Like he was just such the fist fights they got into with some of the people, he was a really hard competitive guy, Yeah. But, I just think that he, for me, stands out as one of the best pitchers of all time, And who was the pitcher in the 70s that pitched the whole game on mushrooms? Do you remember that?
I remember hearing about it, but I don't remember who he was. But that's what they did, man. Like that was wild. Okay, build it out for. Okay, so you got. Let's go catch. Who's catching for Ryan?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. Who would you say as a catcher in that time period that would stand out to you as one of the best?
Oh my goodness! So, we're stuck in that time period. I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking back to like my 4-year-old self here. I was like,
if I'm building the team of all time, I would definitely say. Yeah. Okay. If it's any time period, I would say Yogi Berra for sure. Just his character. Character and what he brought to the game. I mean, so awesome. Yogi Berra for sure.
Okay.
But so opening it up to like all time like that, that's tough. Yeah, it makes it tougher.
That's a tough one. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go around. I mean, I could basically just build the Jays dream team, like Jays 93. That's my team.
Yeah.
Joe Carter in there and Alomar. Oh my goodness.
Here's the thing that's so funny is people are like, are you still into sports? And I was like, no. They're like, you don't watch any sports? And I said, no, not really. I said, I got more into like nutrition and like health, and I spend more time on like kettlebells and push-ups and jumping jacks than I do like focusing on sports anymore. And so it's really interesting. Like sports was my entire life until like senior of high school. And even after that, still watched sports and was into sports. But there was a time period probably in like my mid 20s where I just like shifted and like just went into poetry, music, and art and kind of left the sports world behind. But from time to time, I kind of check in and dabble in things. But it's just really interesting because it was when I think back about my time in sports, it was such a, it almost feels like I'm a walk-in now. Like that was a different life, and this is a new life. And I still have a connection to those things. Like I really enjoyed being a pitcher. I remember one of the games we played when I was in, I think, 11th grade. We did a touring travel team, and we were in Carmichael's, Pennsylvania. And I pitched a 2-hitter as a pitcher, and I had 2 home runs and a ground rule double at bat. And so that's why a lot of the scouts were looking at me, is because most pitchers don't hit like that.
Don't even hit, no.
Yeah.
All, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And the fastball, honestly, I could throw kind of a breaking ball and a curveball, changeup kind of thing. And but really my fastball is what I had. And I think, you know, I would have had to probably develop some other things to go to those next levels. But I remember the umpire of that game came up to me and gave me the game ball. And he said, I just called strikes because I couldn't see the ball coming. And I remember in 10th grade, I got clocked throwing, I think it was 93. In 10th and 11th grade, I was throwing really hard, man. Like I was like in the 90s. Like
That's
the catcher,
wild.
yeah, my catcher that was catching would put 2 baseball gloves on underneath the catcher's mitt, just to have some extra padding. And I think he even put like a little foam block in his palm.
Like, break
Yeah.
his hands in grade 10?
Yeah, 10th and 11th grade. So I think I was throwing, you know, pretty fast back then. And in Little League, there was some clocks that they did, and I was throwing and pony ball, like, which is right before high school there, I was throwing in the 70, like 75 and 80 miles an hour. And then as I got older and more mature and got a little more muscle tone, and learned mechanics, you know, I really studied a lot of the mechanics, and the mechanics really has a big influence on how fast you can throw. It's not really muscles. It's about the mechanics of, you know, of how you throw. And, yeah, my dad's dad played minor league baseball, and my dad played baseball, and it was just something that was kind of in my blood. You know, I was lucky that my dad gave me a lot of really cool tools for this life, you know, whether it was athleticism or, you know, being a musician and that creative stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, it sounds like you've been a pro in all of the forms, everything that you've taken on, man. What would you say the number one pro quality in any person is? And 2-piece, who is that person to you?
I think it would be hard to pick a person, but I think more recently, Paul Chek has been a huge person in my life. You know, his podcast, his content, the amount of content and podcasting that Paul Chek puts out, and how long they are, you know, 2-3 hours long every time. He's bringing on really awesome guests to his podcast. He's putting out, you know, he's working on a new book right now. He's got tons of workshops going on. It's just astronomical, the amount of people that he's affecting. And he's just such a positive guy that is just smart, probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in person. And just his ability to retain information is just sick. Like it's just ridiculous. I had the pleasure of walking through his personal library and just talking with him about everything in there. And he could just talk to you. You pick a book off the shelf and he just starts talking about it. And yeah, so I think like professionalism to me comes down to having integrity for yourself, for really what your calling is, and not getting strayed from that, like where people would say like selling out. I don't really agree in that term, selling out, because I was having this conversation the other day. If someone came to me right now and said, I'm going to buy your company for, you know, $200 million, I would be like, sold, see you guys later, thanks, you know. And it's because people don't understand the time and energy it takes to build these companies. I mean, sometimes you're talking 20 years of your life. And if you then have the ability to take care of your friends and family and set up a network of resources that can help change the world, why would you not do that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, because the work that I'm doing here is very important, but I think that I would be able to be of assistance to many more people in a different way with that ability and that opportunity. So I don't really like the word sellout, but what I'm saying is that you're staying true to what it is that you know you're here to do. I think having the integrity in that is the first part. And I think what truly makes you a professional is that you're working on it full time, that this is your commitment. It's where all your time and energy is going, and you're studying it, you're living it, you're eating, you're breathing it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what makes you a professional. And so, yeah, I guess that's what my answer would be.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Where can people find you? What have you got going on? I know you have a whole busy ass week and life ahead here in the coming months for sure, by the sounds of things. But when people want to go, hey, where do I reach out? We got the affiliate program. What's the best way for people to reach out and say, hey?
So listeningtosmile.com is our website. They can sign up for the membership affiliate program on there. There's a sign up sheet where they can get involved with that. We also have personal frequency coaching if people want to get involved in learning more about sound, putting a template to their life to create change, movement of stagnant energy. It's a 2-week period that you'll be kind of going through, and it's a very light commitment. I mean, you're talking 20 to 30 minutes a day for 2 weeks, and we haven't had a person yet go through that program and not experience a shift of some kind. And what's neat is after that program's done, they'll be able to have that music and that template where they can create their own. They can buy extra albums for personal use off of our site and just keep that process and that template going. So it's like really the most sessions I've ever done with someone was 3. I would say 87%, I think is what it was when we looked at it, do one session and have a big, breakthrough with that. And it's something that it's not setting them up to be dependent on me or the process. It's actually empowering them to walk through it. So that personal frequency coaching is something that they can do, signing up on the website. And then we have the workplace wellness on there, where if someone has a company that wants to work with employees and create more productivity, better culture, more happiness, more joy in the workplace, and to create more stability and team building, the workplace wellness is an option. And so coming through you, they get reduced pricing. So if they use your code whenever they come to the website, then it makes it to where it's supporting you and your work, and it's also supporting them with a reduced price. So it's something that works out well.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for that. Again, guys, listeningtosmile.com. Ian, this has been an absolute treat, and everything that I've learned from you're an absolute inspiration for me. I really kicked it into overdrive with my production quality after getting to know you and why you were doing with it. And I was looking at a lot of reflections in that moment, and now to be able to produce my own music that does encompass and embody me from the healing aspect to help others heal has been absolutely monumental in my life. So thank you so much for your friendship, for your connection, for the collaboration, and everything that you do in this world, man. You are an absolute pro ninja, and it's just a treat. And people have got the ability to join up through the, if you're listening to the show, it's Rock Dog 40. You head over to Listening to Smile. You guys can get sorted out, and you can start to really, really make big, deep impact for the people, both yourself and the people that you're working with. So, Ian, thank you so much once again for coming on the Pro Podcast Show. I'm going to give you the floor, final word, because this is like the mic drop moment for you. Final word for anybody listening out here who's seeing, adversity, going through dark times. What do you have to say to them?
There are times that I wanted to give up when I faced my dark night of the soul, like check out of life. And I think that the biggest thing that I reflect on now, looking back at that time period, is if I would have checked out or given up. And that can mean a lot of things. That can mean suicide. That can mean giving up on your dream. That can mean quitting a relationship that you love and admire, but you feel like you don't have enough to put into it. I mean, it can be anything for anyone. But for me, if I would have walked away from my life at that period, I would have missed out on so much beauty and amazing things that are happening now. And I would have taken away my contribution to interacting with people. And we just really never know. And I think that I would love to invite the listeners to an invitation to come with an open heart and open mind to the music, and to see if this helped me in a massive way. Maybe it can help you. And you're talking about a very minimal commitment, 10 to 20 minutes a day, something that can really be a great tool for release work and healing. So yeah, I just want to invite everyone to take a try.
Aho, brother. Aho. Thank you so much for your time, your space, and your energy today.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciated being here.
All right, guys, post-game show. Very special thank you to our guest today, Ian Morris. Ian's got some really amazing things going on, and you can check them all out over at listeningtosmile.com. I have 3 big takeaways from our chat. Holy moly. Number 1, music is a huge part of your message. Number 2, what's that mean? Soundtracks, theme songs, everything. There's areas of opportunity for you to stand out from the rest and help your clients get better and faster results when you consider tracks like Ian's as part of your coaching offer. And number 3, this is a big one. Many coaches are totally in the dark when it comes to legally using music in their practice, and we have the solution. You can head to listeningtosmile1.bandcamp.com and use the coupon RockDoc40 and score 40% off all your personal purchases, and then you're going to love it. You're going to want to integrate it to your practice, so use that same code RockDoc40 and go get yourself an affiliate license. Head to listeningtosmile.com and join up the wait list. Tell Ian I sent you, RockDoc40, okay? Speaking of wait lists, real quick here because we got to roll out. The doors are open to the Pro Podcast Playbook for another couple days. We shut things down on Friday, so hit up propodcastplaybook.com and book a call. Let's have a chat, a little virtual coffee, see if you're a good fit for the program. Or you can just feel free to join the wait list for the next one. All the links to all the things are in the show notes. So, till next time, y'all stay sweet. Peace.
There it is.